The CW ordered a live-action Powerpuff Girls series, where they are now 20-something adults who resent their childhoods. Say what you will, but that definitely makes them relatable to the CW's demographic, who love watching the network drive shows into the ground and frack them for 8 seasons too long, while simultaneously making an average of 3 spin-offs per entity. The CW is the home of shows like Arrow, The Flash, Batwoman, Supergirl, DC's Legends of Tomorrow, Constantine, Black Lightning, and yes, every single one of these shows is part of the same universe, so I can't wait for the Powerpuff Girls to join the fray so Blossom can fall in love with Oliver Queen while Buttercup and Batwoman scissor in the Batcave. Buttercup was a tomboy as a child, so I'll be surprised if a network like the CW doesn't take that to mean she should have a sex change, because gender is fluid according to them until you're a girl who likes sports, at which point if you're not chowing down on some labia or growing a dick, you're wasting your diversity potential. This is the network who replaced their Batwoman because they had a self-proclaimed non-binary actress playing a lesbian character, and people complained about stolen valor, essentially, and we're gonna act like they won't take every possible opportunity to sacrifice the Powerpuff Girls on the altar of the culture war. I shudder to think of what they'll do to some of the villains, since a few of them are stereotypes to begin with. I bet him is gonna have to change his pronouns. If you're unfamiliar with Powerpuff Girls lore, I watched every episode as a kid, and him is basically a demonic drag queen with lobster claws wearing makeup, a dress, and a mustache. His name is Him, so I assume he goes by him, and when people talk about him, they refer to him as he, and drag queens are dudes who identify as dudes but just dress as women because they feel comfortable or whatnot, which is being looked at with more scrutiny nowadays because are men appropriating female culture? To which I reply, what is female culture? Are you saying women are all the same? Checkmate. And then the absurdity of the issue is in plain view of everyone, and we all tug on our collars while we imagine humanity's collective intelligence going down the drain. There is no villain like him anywhere. His voice is iconic and he has absolutely crazy demon powers. There's one episode in particular where he just goes off and you're like, holy shit, this is the most dangerous person I've ever seen. If you look back, he's honestly one of the best villains in all of villain history across any genre. This dude can shapeshift, bend time and space, trap people in illusions. He's literally like if the devil was God. On one hand, seeing that play out in a live-action format would be thrilling. On the other, the CW has no budget and would never in a million years be able to adequately represent his power. You would need an Avengers-level cash flow to pull off some evil Doctor Strange type shit ratcheted up to 11. It just couldn't be done. So him will be lame, and they'll probably change his name to Them, and then at one point he'll show up and someone will be like, it's them! And then someone else will be like, but I only see one person! And it'll be a joke, and you might even laugh, but the show will still suck. The Gangrene Gang would be interesting too. It's exactly what it sounds like, a gang of dudes who have gangrene. The OG Powerpuff Girls is an amazing show, and it holds up, by the way. You really should watch it. It was on Netflix a couple years ago, but now it's apparently everywhere except there. But it's interesting because they'd be the easiest villains to introduce to live action because none of them have powers, although one of them is a huge fatty who's really strong, and another one is like kind of a snake whose name is Snake, and he can constrict people with his body or whatever. But I'm really interested in a little Arturo. Looking back, I love this character. In the cartoon, he's a little Hispanic midget who talks really fast, but he's even shorter than a midget. He's basically just a big head with arms and feet, and he goes up to people's knees. So I'm real curious how they'd play that. My guess would be they just get a real one, but a real midget would still be like twice as tall as how he's drawn, but they'll probably just be like, whatever. But it's a tiny Mexican man with an accent, which their height is already a stereotype. You know they're going to get complaints from the Latinx community, a group who accurately represents the sensitivities of about 3% of Hispanic people. I'm never going to let anyone forget that only a tiny fraction of Hispanic people identify as Latinx, according to polls taken by Hispanic people. But the media has just rolled out the red carpet for that terminology to be associated with all of them because somehow it's easier to roll over than to tell someone their beliefs don't have societal carte blanche. God, this show is going to be a shitstorm. And the main reason why is because of the main concept. They are retconning the Powerpuff Girls' entire childhood experience by pretending they actually hated being superheroes. This is a goddamn lie. They loved every second of it. Fighting crime is what they lived for. To throw the ideals of justice and peacekeeping in the trash and replace it with cynicism to relate to depressed teenagers is so contrived and so disappointing. The summary specifically says the girls resent losing their childhoods to crime fighting and have become disillusioned. That's like me me saying I regretted losing my childhood to video games. What kind of brain surgery do you have to perform on yourself to become jaded by the best part of your formative years? You want to turn the Powerpuff Girls, who were pillars of the community, beloved by the entire city of Townsville with a direct line to the mayor and his apple-faced secretary, you want to turn them into brooding wrist cutters who sink into the bowels of nihilism and the cliched, is the city even worth saving BS? Some people think it's a bold turnaround. I think it's the laziest thing you could do, and it's been done so many times before, just never with 3 adult versions of children who were just going to end up looking like the Totally Spies chicks anyway, which would have been a better live-action series to do as long as you kept your virulent philosophy out of it. Cartoons are the opposite of video games. We don't want our cartoons remade. They're always worse. Video game remakes are almost always better, but cartoon remakes are usually missing key fundamentals that made us enjoy them in the first place. And because a cartoon's entire run history is usually like 50 times longer than a video game, we are much more firmly attached to the initial vision, having spent infinitely more time with it. The only time people like when a cartoon is remade is if the original character designs are unchanged and the only thing that's different besides the content of the episodes is better animation. Live-action remakes in particular are not exciting unless it's from a comic book, because it's pretty difficult to make a TV show or movie that's more boring than a bunch of still images stapled together. Whether it's from a cartoon like the upcoming Titans, or an anime like literally any live-action anime remake there's ever been, or beloved Disney classics like The Lion King, live-action things have a history of taking the soul of an animated feature and sucking it out in brutal fashion, replacing the initial cartoon magic with CGI flexes and just trying to fill the void by throwing money into it. Budget is not a replacement for soul. Dazzling locales can't stop a feature from feeling dead inside. With the Powerpuff Girls, it's like they're trying to make it feel dead inside because they want the characters to be dead inside. The idea that anyone who wasn't around for the original cartoon back in the late 90s would be first introduced to the Powerpuff Girls as these shells of their former selves and come away thinking that was their initial appeal and legacy does not sit right with me. Watch the original episodes wherever you can find them. Well, that's going to do it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, you can like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you guys next time.